discover the incredible, miraculous origins of black people in the Bible, revealed by God's plan. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, the Israelites groaned under the oppressive heat of the Egyptian sun. The mighty pyramids loomed tall, casting long shadows across the land, where the cries of Hebrew slaves echoed through the streets. Among them was a young boy named Moses, born during a time of fierce oppression, raised in the heart of Pharaoh's palace, yet his spirit felt the deep agony of his kin. Moses lived in privilege, feasting at grand tables draped in silks, but his heart wandered among the weary laborers. Daily he beheld the taskmasters wielding their whips, driving his people like cattle. The weight of their suffering stirred a fire deep within him, yet he felt the chains of his identity, caught between royalty and the blood of the oppressed. One fateful day, the discord in his heart reached a boiling point. As he ventured among his people, he witnessed an Egyptian brutally beating a fellow Hebrew. In that instant, fury ignited within Moses. His blood boiled for justice, and in a moment of rage, he struck down the oppressor. His heart raced as the gravity of his act settled like a heavy cloak around his shoulders. The fractures of his existence deepened as he fled into the desolate wilderness, leaving behind the palatial comforts. In the solitude of the wilderness, tending his father-in-law Jethro's sheep, an extraordinary sight pierced his grief, the sight of a bush aflame yet unconsumed. Intrigued, he approached, and suddenly the very voice of the Almighty called his name, "Moses! Moses!" Overwhelmed by this sacred encounter, he hid his face in awe, trembling at the holiness around him. The Lord spoke of his people's plight and declared that Moses had been chosen to lead them from bondage. Doubt clouded Moses' heart as he confronted the weight of this divine calling. "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh?" he stammered, recognizing his shortcomings. In response, God promised signs that would accompany him, a staff that would become a serpent, and hands that could heal, igniting hope where there had been despair. As Moses prepared to confront Pharaoh, a tempest raged within him. Fear and inadequacy battled against a deep-seated conviction for his people's freedom. With resolute faith, he returned to Egypt, standing before one of the most powerful kings in the world. "Let my people go," he commanded, his voice quivering yet unwavering. But Pharaoh's heart was a stone fortress, resistant to the divine request. The plagues began to unfold, each more astonishing than the last, revealing the unmatched power of the God of Israel. Moses witnessed darkness enveloping the land, rivers of life transforming into blood, and livestock laid waste as God demonstrated his might in unmistakable displays. With every step, they crossed the sea, the damp earth feeling firm beneath their feet, and the sight of their captivity dissolving behind them. Behind them, Pharaoh's heart hardened anew, and the fury of his wrath propelled chariots into the churning waters. "Pursue them, bring them back," he raged, oblivious to the plagues that had beset his land and the God who had displayed unfathomable power. As the last of the Israelites reached the shores of safety, the Lord instructed Moses once more, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters may come back upon the Egyptians." With resolute faith, Moses lifted his hand high, and in that moment the once separated waters roared back together, engulfing the proud army that sought to reclaim what the Lord had claimed as his own. The ground shook with the divine judgment of God, And as the sea reclaimed its depths, jubilant cries erupted from the Israelites. "The Lord has saved us. He is our strength and our song," they sang, their voices harmonizing in unison, rejoicing in their deliverance. The heart of Moses swelled with awe and reverence as he turned to witness the sight of the Egyptian forces swallowed whole. "Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glorious deeds, doing wonders?" he sang, leading his people in worship, cementing the incredible bond forged through suffering and salvation. In the aftermath of their miraculous escape, Moses turned his heart towards the wilderness, a land yet unexplored and fraught with challenges. He pondered the future, for the desert was a place of trial, but also a stage upon which God's mighty acts would be revealed. Yet deep within him was a stirring of beginnings, echoes of promises yet unfulfilled. What further wonders await in this journey to the promised land, he mused. For with every step, the tapestry of God's sovereign plan continued to unfold, as the Israelites prepared to encounter not only trials, but also the transformative power of faith. In silence, the desert winds whispered of a covenant yet to be established, a promise of land and legacy awaiting their embrace. The journey had begun, but the greater work of God was just about to be unveiled, a divine purpose leading to a monumental revelation. "And I will be your God, and you shall be my people." What wondrous path awaited them in this unfolding story of redemption and divine destiny? As the dawn broke upon the shores of freedom, the Israelites stood in awe, their hearts still echoing the triumphant song of deliverance. The radiant sun illuminated the endless stretch of the wilderness before them, a vast expanse filled with uncertainty and promise. Moses, the chosen leader, sensed the weight of the looming journey. "Lift up your eyes to the heavens," he declared, his voice firm yet compassionate. "For the Lord, who fought for us against our enemies, will guide us through this desert." The crowd murmured, their spirits stirring with hope and anticipation, yet apprehension remained. Would they find sustenance in this barren land? Would shadows of fear from the past haunt them anew? As they began to march onward, the Lord spoke again to Moses. "Tell the people to go forward." And so they moved, their feet tracing the very path of liberation that God had wrought. The wilderness stretched on, cradling their doubts, while revealing glimpses of His providence through each fleeting cloud that shaded them. Yet soon, within the heart of the camp, whispers of discontent began to rise. "What shall we eat? What shall we drink?" the people lamented. Their voices, once jubilant, now wavered like the desert heat. Moses prayed, seeking guidance from the One who had led them through the sea. "Trust in the Lord," he urged. "He has not brought us this far to abandon us." His conviction stilled their hearts as the promise of heaven echoed within his soul. "Behold, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day." In the evening, the quail filled the air, a feast from the Lord that graced the table of want. The following dawn ushered in a miraculous sight. The ground was covered with thin flakes, white like frost. "What is it?" the people questioned in wonder. "Manna," Moses declared, "the bread of heaven. This is the provision of God to sustain us in our journey. Every day the Israelites collected manna, enough for their needs, learning to rely on the daily grace bestowed from above. Some, weary of uncertainty, hoarded more than was needed, yet found their supply diminished, a divine lesson of trust unfolded within the tapestry of God's provision. Time flowed like a river, and soon they arrived at the foot of Mount Sinai. The mountain rose majestically, veiled in dark clouds and blazing fire. Through thunder and lightning, God called to Moses, summoning him up as a vessel to receive the covenant. "Prepare the people," God commanded, "for I will descend upon the mountain." The air thickened with sacred anticipation as the people trembled. They bathed in the presence of the Almighty, witnessing the holiness of His decree. "See, I am establishing a covenant with you and with your descendants. You shall be my treasured possession among all peoples. You shall be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation." Moses descended, glowing with the radiant light of God's presence. The tablets of stone, clutched in his hands, contained the commands of the Lord, blueprints for holy living. The people listened, their hearts swelling with a sense of identity forged in a promise greater than themselves. What does the future hold? They wondered. Hope and apprehension intertwined as they pondered their new identity. Little did they know, this covenant marked the inception of a long-awaited journey towards a divine fulfillment that would echo through generations.
Who shall ascend the hill of the Lord? Moses echoed the unsaid truths, mindful of future travelers yearning for God's presence. With every step into the wilderness, the Israelites knew that a sovereign plan unfurled before them, one that would shape the destiny of nations, embodied in the very covenant of love and guidance they now embraced. What wonders lay ahead in this unfolding story, as the God who delivered them prepared to reveal His heart for all peoples through the trials to come. As the echoes of God's proclamations faded into the wilderness, the people pondered the weight of their newfound identity. They gathered around the fires at night, voices hushed, reflecting upon the commandments carved upon the stone tablets. Such a sacred revelation ignited a spark of reverence within the hearts of the Israelites. But shadows of doubt began to creep in as their days stretched before them like the undulating dunes of the desert. Moses, attuned to these subtleties, continuously approached the Lord in earnest prayer. He sought understanding for the hearts burdened by uncertainty and fear. In the solitude of his communion with God, the Lord spoke again. "Reassure my people, for I will be their provision. My covenant remains, and my presence will guide them by day and night." Thus instructed, Moses returned to the trembling crowd and proclaimed, "The Lord has promised to dwell among us. He will provide for us from His abundant storehouse. Do not fear the wilderness, for just as He has fed us with quail and manna, so He shall fill our hearts with His peace." Emboldened by His words, the people rallied, but deep within, doubt still remained, a flickering ember beneath the surface. As the days wore on, they turned to one another, sharing tales of their past in Egypt, and how they longed for the variety of food they once knew. Familiarity beckoned to them like a distant dream, and the notion of returning to the lands of bondage began to root itself within their minds. Would it not have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in this wilderness? They murmured, their voices tinged with a longing for comfort that their current trials had not afforded them. Yet in the hushed stillness of night, the Lord held counsel with Moses once more atop Mount Sinai. "Go back to the people," God instructed, "and remind them of my mighty deeds. Tell them of my covenant promises that stretch from generation to generation. I show mercy to thousands who love me and heed my commands." Obediently, Moses descended once more, his heart aflame with the fervent message of the Almighty. "Children of Israel, hear the word of the Lord. He has wrought great wonders among you, and he will do so again. Do not look back upon the chains of your past, for he is doing a new thing. Even within this desert, streams will break forth, and flowers will bloom." As he spoke, O Spirit of God ignited the hearts of many. Yet there were some whose stubbornness clung tightly to their discontent. Their eyes turned inward, and bitter hearts whispered rebellion. "We shall make for ourselves a leader, and return to Egypt," they conspired, ignorant of the profound danger that lay in forsaking their covenant with the living God. Moses fell prostrate before the Lord in anguish. "Lord, what shall I do with this people? Their hearts are hardened." The Lord replied, "I will show them my mercies. I shall not forsake them, but they must choose to trust in my plan." As the sun set behind Sinai, the air shimmered with divine anticipation. Through the crackling of flames and the soft wind that caressed the camp, a sense of urgency fell upon the people, thickening the atmosphere with a divine mystery. Unbeknownst to them, greater trials awaited, yet through such trials would the completeness of God's glory be revealed. Little did they know that their journey beyond the horizon was not merely for survival, but for the thriving of nations yet to come. God's sovereign design to weave them into a tapestry of grace that spanned the earth. The time was drawing close for God's purpose to be unveiled. For with every step forward, the unfolding of his covenant was tangible, and salvation blossomed like the night-blooming jasmine in the desert wilderness. As dawn broke over the encampment, the sun cast a golden hue across the mountains of Sinai, illuminating the faces of the children of Israel. Moses awoke early, his spirit heavy yet resolute. He climbed once more to the summit, where the Lord met him in a shroud of glory. The earth trembled under the weight of divine presence, and a voice resonated through the heights. "Moses, gather my people, for I will make known the future that I have woven into the fabric of their existence." With trembling steps and a heart aflame with the urgency of God's command, Moses descended the mountain. He summoned the elders and leaders of tribes around him, whose faces reflected the struggle of faith against worldly desire. "Hearken, O children of Israel! The Lord has much to tell us this day. We are not merely wanderers in this wilderness. We are a people chosen for a divine purpose." As the crowd assembled, Moses spoke of a land flowing with milk and honey, a sanctuary prepared by the Lord where they would worship freely. Yet he interspersed his words with the truth that trials were part of their journey. "The path before us shall not be easy, but fear not. The Lord fights for you. You need only to be still." Amidst the murmurs of hope and despair, a group arose from among the throng, those who had once felt the chains of Egypt more keenly than others. Their hearts burned with a desire to lead others back to safety. If we could but return, life would be easier, they urged. Look upon the fields that we knew, the food that we ate. Why wander as nomads? Moses sunk on the yearning for Egypt, a land of bondage. Yet the Lord whispered to him, "Do not be dismayed, my servant, for even within the shadows of doubt there is a remnant I shall preserve." With renewed determination, Moses raised his voice. "Stand firm and see, for the Lord will reveal his might among us. He is not leading you to despair, but to an inheritance beyond compare, a promise not only for you, but for generations to come." Then the Lord spoke again, this time sending fire to a bush that burned yet was not consumed. The people stepped back in awe as they witnessed this miraculous sign. The voice pierced their hearts. "Remember my covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and know that the very nations shall rise from your obedience. Through you I will bless all families of the earth." Awestruck, the people murmured among themselves, their doubts faced by the wonders before them. Yet confusion still lingered in the hearts of many. "But how can we trust this promise?" they asked. "Will our children live in bondage as we did, or learn the ways of the Almighty?" Moses, filled with the Spirit of God, stood firm. "The Lord hears your cries. He remembers the affliction of his people. You shall live to see the fruit of his promise if you stand together." Suddenly a shadow loomed, darkening the camp as a mighty wind swept through the valley. It swirled and enveloped Moses, filling him with prophetic insight. "The nations shall rise and fall, but from your loins will come leaders and kings, a diverse people united for my glory. And generations untold shall rejoice in the goodness of the Lord." As the echoes of his words reverberated through the assembly, the air felt electric with divine promise. Yet within the crowd fear brewed, and a whisper passed among the people, "Who among us is worthy?" In that moment the Lord's voice came like thunder. "I am the God who sees. Through this people I shall reveal my mercy, and upon them shall I pour out my grace. Your legacy transcends the bounds of this wilderness." With that, the tension was palpable, for among them stood the keys to a future only God could fathom. Little did they know, the plans of the Almighty beckoned them toward a destiny not only for themselves, but also for a world yet to unfold, a divine revelation waiting to be birthed through their journey of faith. As the winds danced over the camp, weaving their whispers among the people, Moses felt a stirring deep within his spirit, like flames igniting in a hidden cauldron. The assembly, still shaken from the voice of the Almighty, regarded their leader with a mix of awe and trepidation. Every eye looked upon him as if he were a vessel sent from the heavens, awaiting the revelation of further promises. "Moses," cried a voice from the crowd, the tone laced with both hope and reverence, "what shall we do? How shall we prepare ourselves for this inheritance?" Moses, whose hands lifted to the heavens, rejoiced within him. "Gather yourselves, O children of Israel, and prepare your hearts. The Lord is calling us to obedience. He desires not sacrifices alone, but a spirit attuned to His will. As the sun rises, so shall your faith rise, for He shall lead you with a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. The people nodded, yet their hearts still wrestled with doubt. Among the ranks, a voice rose, trembling but bold. "Moses, our journey has been filled with hardship. Will the Lord truly sustain us? Can we lean on such promises?" "Indeed," Moses replied, his voice resounding with conviction. "Shall we forget the mighty hand that brought us forth from Egypt? Shall we dismiss the miracles that have set us apart? The Lord, who struck down the firstborn of Pharaoh and parted the waters of the sea, calls us forth into a destiny unknown but glorious." The assembly gasped, memories of their deliverance igniting embers of faith, yet questions still loomed. "Then let us make a covenant of remembrance," Moses instructed. "Each of you shall take a lamb without blemish and sacrifice it in your households. Its blood shall be a sign for you. When the Lord sees it, He will pass over you." A murmur of understanding spread through the people, infused with hope and a sense of urgency. The promise was alive again, and the fears of returning to bondage slowly began to dissipate like morning mist. As the sun climbed higher, Moses climbed the mountain once more, compelled by the intent whisper of the Lord. There, amidst the consuming glory of God's presence, he was given instructions for the sacred tabernacle, a dwelling place among them. Each detail was penned in the annals of divine design, crafted for communion with the Holy One. "Speak unto the children of Israel," the Lord commanded, "that they may bring me an offering. Every man shall give willingly, for their gifts shall construct a sanctuary, and I shall dwell among them." With spirits lifted, Moses returned to relay the message. "Let every heart rejoice. We shall bring forth gold, silver, and bronze, and from our hands a sanctuary shall arise. Our offerings shall be a testament of faith, a reflection of the glory of the Lord among us." The people's eyes sparkled with anticipation, and they began to gather their possessions, each act of generosity binding them closer to their sovereign God. As they did, evidence of unity manifested among the tribes, a tapestry woven from hearts awakened by divine purpose. Yet, as the foundations of the tabernacle began to take shape, a darkened cloud loomed on the horizon. Adversity would soon disrupt their nascent unity, for even as God prepared them for His dwelling, they prepared to face trials, trials that would test the very fiber of their faith and resolve. "Remember," Moses cautioned, "every challenge is a chance to dig deeper into your covenant with the Almighty. Your trust will be the anchor in the storm."
Thus, as Israel prepararan their hearts y offerings, they stood on the precipice of their destiny, unaware of the trials yet to unfold and the glorious inheritance that awaited them. Little did they know the journey ahead was not solely about their own freedom. The Lord watched from the heights, His plans untouched by human frailty. For this journey shall unveil the faces of generations yet to come, He declared to Moses in the silence. "Through you I will call forth a multitude to worship, a people who will bear witness to my glory, and through your lineage will come forth a Savior, a light unto the nations." As the people labored to build a dwelling for their God, a question echoed in the divine chambers. What awaited them on the other side of the wilderness? What legacy would they leave behind, hidden in the folds of time, awaiting fulfillment in the hearts of generations unborn? And it came to pass, in the days that followed, that the heart of the people began to swell with a fervent hope. Yet whispers of fear were not silenced. Even as their hands worked amidst the dust and stone, a shadow fell upon their unity. For some among them questioned the leadership of Moses. "Why should we follow him?" they murmured among themselves. "His voice has brought us thus far, yet what is to be our fate in this wilderness? Does the Lord truly dwell with a man who has led us into uncertainty?" These murmurs reached the ears of Aaron, brother of Moses, who felt the weight of their discontent. With great wisdom he approached the people and lifted his voice. "O children of Israel, remember the mighty deeds the Lord has wrought among us. Has he not delivered us from the hand of Pharaoh? Has he not parted the sea before our very eyes? Set your hearts upon him, and not on man, for the Lord shall guide us." Yet the seeds of discontent had taken root, and a new leader emerged from the ranks, a man named Korah, son of Izhar. With deception cloaked in the guise of righteousness, he rallied others to his side, saying, "Why should Moses alone bear the burden of leadership? All the congregation is holy. Let us choose a leader who shall bring us back to our homeland." As they plotted, clouds settled darkly over the camp, and the Lord spoke to Moses from the mountain. "Get thee down, for your people, whom you brought out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly from the way which I commanded them. They have made themselves a molten calf, and have worshipped it." Moses' heart grieved, for the sight of rebellion stirred in him a righteousness fierce and profound. Clutching the tablets of the covenant in his hand, he descended with a countenance bright, yet soon troubled, the steps leading him trembling towards an impending crisis. As he reached the base, he beheld the people in abandon, dancing around the golden calf, their hearts ensnared in idolatry.
The sound of revelry pierced the air, a stark contrast to the sacred communion he had just experienced with the Almighty. "Moses," shouted Joshua, his faithful aide, "there is a great noise in the camp. It sounds like the roar of war." "It is not the sound of victory, nor the cry of defeat," Moses replied, his heart breaking, "but the sound of idolatry that has risen to the heavens." Stepping into the midst of the assembly, Moses stood as a sentinel, his voice ringing out, "O foolish people, what have you done? Are we not the chosen of God? In turning aside to idols, you provoke him to anger." But in their sin, deafness enveloped them, for they were ensnared by the allure of the golden calf, forgetting the God who had parted the waters and led them forth in glory. The fury of the Lord burned against them, and Moses, pleading on their behalf, cried out, "O Lord, if you will forgive their sin, forgive them, but if not, I pray, blot me out of your book." Yet the Lord, in his righteousness, responded, "Whoever has sinned against me, him will I blot out of my book. Now go, lead the people unto the promised land, but know that my presence will not go with you, for this tangled heart must be dealt with before they enter." Moses felt the weight of divine disappointment and anguish as he descended further into the camp. Heart pounding with resolve, he would confront the sin that betrayed their cherished covenant, to seek restoration and redirection in the eyes of the Lord. The people, realizing their folly as the golden calf melted beneath the power of righteousness, turned their faces away in shame. Yet the promise remained steadfast. The journey of reconciliation was upon them, a journey that held the keys to their destiny. And in that moment of renewal, the Lord spoke again to Moses. "The paths before you are fraught with trials, for I must refine this people as silver, and there will come a day when they shall know my name. For a multitude shall arise, transforming the hearts of nations, and a Savior will emerge to light the way." With these words echoing in the hearts of Moses and the people, they began anew, aware that their journey held a greater narrative woven into God's sovereign plan. What new lessons awaited on this winding path? What signs of glory would yet manifest amidst their trials? For even in the depths of testing, the Lord's purpose remained unshakable, calling forth a people of promise. And it came to pass that Moses stood in the midst of the people, burdened by their sin, yet firm in his resolve to lead. His heart was heavy, yet within it lay a flicker of hope, for he knew the Lord was merciful and gracious. With the molten calf still smoldering, Moses gathered the children of Israel, his voice a solemn call to repentance. "Hear me, O people, you have sinned a great sin. But even now, return to the Lord with all your heart. Cast aside your idols, and he shall have mercy upon you."
We will choose to trust in the Lord and follow his path, they lamented, their hearts humbled. And in that moment, a new testament of faith was born. For in their trial and tribulation, the people began to understand that their journey was not solely about reaching a promised land, but about learning to walk with the God who delivered them. The Lord spoke once more, revealing to Moses a faithful covenant, a promise of renewal for those who seek him earnestly. "Write these words, for they shall be a guide and a light for the generations to come. A great deliverance shall arise from the hearts of the people, and nations shall be drawn to the beacon of my faithfulness." As the people stood in silence, their eyes turned to Moses, filled with expectation for what was to come. What wondrous truths about their identity and purpose would unfold, intricately woven into the tapestry of God's sovereign plan. In the midst of trials and fervent cries, the Creator remained steadfast, revealing his heart towards his people, and the delightful mysteries yet to be unveiled. And it came to pass, in the days that followed, that the people of Israel stood before the Lord, their hearts yearning for his direction, and their spirits trembling in the light of his holiness. The air was thick with anticipation. They longed to understand their place in the promise of God. Moses, chosen shepherd of the flock, ascended the mountain once more, seeking the face of the Almighty. As he climbed, he felt the weight of his calling, yet within him surged a desire to know more about the intricate tapestry of the divine plan. The Lord beckoned him, and a thick cloud enveloped the peak, a manifestation of God's glory. "Speak, O Moses," the Lord said, his voice reverberating with authority and love. "I shall unveil your heritage and destiny, for I am the God of generations, and in my sovereignty I weave a narrative that transcends time."
Moses bowed low, attentive to the words that would be imparted. Lord, reveal your wisdom for your people, that we may understand your ways. And the Lord answered, Know this, my covenant with Abraham shall be fulfilled through all nations, and nations shall arise from those who heed my voice. Even among you shall dwell those not of Israel by blood, who shall be counted among my chosen, for the heart belongs to those who call upon my name. As Moses listened intently, the Lord continued, You shall see the children of Cush and the descendants of Ham, who shall find their purpose in my plan. They are not forgotten. They are part of the legacy of faith you will carry to the promised land. In them I shall display my power, and they shall sing praises to my name. For I delight in the diversity of creation, and I shall pour out my Spirit upon all flesh. Moses' heart soared, understanding that the path ahead was not merely for Israel, but included a multitude drawn together by the cords of grace.
It was among the storms that as they witness the seamless weaving of God's promises realized in collective faith. And so the years unfurled like a tapestry before them, maturing them as a people marked by His steadfastness. Unsheathing their identities as a fulfilled covenant people, they proclaimed every piece of God's festival, the harvest of songs, prayers, and worship uncurling in an endless offering. At last they reached the promised land, a vibrant testament of faith fulfilled. The sons of destiny rose over fields flowing with milk and honey, and Joseph's bones, carried through time, stood as a witness to the dreams gone from dreams to reality. Look around you, Moses declared, lifting his voice over the joyous cacophony. We are a people reborn. God has fulfilled His covenant. Woven into our hearts are threads of every nation. As they stood together, their diverse ancestries intertwined by the Spirit, they lifted their hands to heaven, offerings of praise bursting forth. Blessed be the Lord, who has delivered us and given us a place to worship. From our depths we shall call to every tribe. Our story shall echo in the hearts of all generations. And in that moment, the promise of God rippled through creation, reaching beyond what the eyes could see into the very essence of time. For through this obedient nation gathered, impassioned, unified, the world would come to know the power of divine redemption and the heart of God revealed. Rejoice, therefore. Each soul reading these words has the calling to extend the grace writ large in the story of the Exodus. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word. Hit the bell icon to never miss a powerful biblical story that can transform lives. Leave a like now and help spread God's Word through the algorithm. Every gesture counts in the kingdom. Comment below your spiritual reflections and how this biblical story has impacted your faith. We want to hear your testimony. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear the truth of God's love and promises. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony. Only true believers understand the importance of supporting biblical content to reach more souls for Christ.